Alpidarco, una institución que fortalece, brinda apoyo, guía a padres, orienta, proporciona herramientas y soporte emocional con el objetivo de fortalecer familias y crear vínculos fuertes para enfrentar los desafíos educativos en la actualidad.
It's an honor for me to introduce to the Mexican community my new Rebbe of late, of the last few years, who has taught me so much in my personal life, as well as helped me have the opportunity to be part of other people's lives. I want Rabbi Russell to help us understand we're 20 years behind, 15 years behind. To quote one of the very chashuv rabbanim in the city, who I heard in his name just a short while ago, that Mexico used to be actually different. It used to be more secluded. The internet has changed that. The whole world is in the palm of every child's hands. The seclusion doesn't help in Mexico anymore. What did you see then? What's happening? What are we theoretically in for? And that's really what I believe is the reason you wrote the book, and that's what this all has to do with the book.
Let me address the question, Rabbi Gertzman. So he was correct that many years ago, my Rebbe sent me, when we first started talking about the changes in the world and what was happening to the younger generation today. So my Rebbe sent me back. He came from England, from Gateshead, and he sent me back to England to inform the communities what was coming their way, to prepare them. I hate to be a prophet of doom, I'm not, but he wanted people to know that the world has changed. The world that once was is no more. I find I sit with families constantly who are yearning for the culture of a generation ago and so worried about how will I bring up my children in this generation. Watching as they do the Metzias on the ground, that this is not the world that was. For example, just for a tiny little example, and if you haven't noticed it here, the truth is, for myself, part of my agenda in writing the book was to try and help educate the world for how we're going to embrace and deal with all this. Because the reality, here's the bottom line, painful truth. We can no longer, the world, our world, the Torah world, the world of Jewish people, from Jewish people, we can no longer guarantee that we can shelter our children. Whatever we thought we could in previous generations, whatever were the norms of previous generations in terms of sheltering, and coupled with sheltering was the expectation of children respecting their elders, listening to their elders, following in the footsteps, accepting the musa, the hadracha and direction of their elders. That world is disappearing in front of us. And I think anyone who doesn't notice that is missing it. And I'm guessing the fact that this group, this incredibly large group of people here tonight is a testament that you know I'm right. That world is changing. Sheltering alone doesn't work anymore. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't shelter our kids. We should do everything we can to shelter our kids. Of course, it's partial. But sheltering alone is no longer the message, because that on its own won't work. The only possibility we have going forward, if we're not going to watch so many of our children falling away, I don't want to say the word rebelling, because I don't think it's rebelling. I think that it's not being nourished by our world, our culture, our system. In this world that they live in, they see and they know easily and quickly what's going on in the outside world. We can no longer prevent that. If we don't nourish our children from within, if we don't make our children feel they belong, they're wanted, they're desired to be part of our world, well, they will look elsewhere today. And I'm not saying it'll happen tomorrow morning, but what we've watched in every community in the world, this is worldwide. And there were communities, I don't want to mention them by name, but certain Hasidic communities that went into certain areas of their own where they founded their own sheltered community with no non-Jews there, nothing. And it was over 10 years ago, more, 15 years ago, they invited me in to try and help them too, because they recognized that they weren't nourished either, and their children were going off too. Because we can't stop anymore in the world we're living in our children from looking to be fulfilled and happy, or at the very least distracted by the outside world, if we're not going to nourish them from within. The premise of the book is the only possible way our children are going to stay close to us and stay close to our communities is if they feel loved. They feel loved by us, unconditionally loved by us, which is the premise of the book, raising a loving family. If we don't organize our lives in a way that our children feel all the time unconditionally loved, then we're in trouble. We're in deep trouble. Because they will look elsewhere and we can't stop it anymore. It's impossible. I joke with some of the yeshivas that when the boys go to yeshiva, some of the struggling yeshivas, so the rebbeim ask them to hand in their smartphone. They have to hand in their phone. And the boys know. So I asked the yeshiva, so when they handed in the first phone, did you ask them for the backup? Because the kids come with a backup. So the yeshiva say to me, sure, we're smart. We asked them for the backup. I said, do you realize the boys go with 3 phones now? And if you take 3, they'll go with 4. And if you go with 4, they'll take 5. It's impossible to stop. If we don't nurture from within, they will be drawn without somewhere else. So that's the premise of the book, and I think it's the premise of what we're trying to do, what Al Pidako is trying to do, is we want to give a picture of how to do that in this very challenging world we live in today. How many of us as parents believe we're giving unconditional love to our children, and we've never once asked them, is that what you feel? It's kind of a scary thought to actually go and ask the kids, is that what you feel all the time? I know it's what I believe I do, but is that what you're feeling? Love does not exist in the action we do. Love exists in the reception. If you don't receive it, then love didn't occur. If I do an act of love, and I buy my wife a box of chocolates, would you say that's, in theory, an act of love? Is that a loving thing to do? Well, she doesn't like chocolates, so that wouldn't work. But let's say I bought you a nice piece of jewelry. That would be a nice thing to do, correct? So we would all think, I think everyone here would agree, that's an act of love. I did an act of love. But if she told me, please don't buy me any more chocolates, I hate them, what I really want is you to spend time with me, then did love occur? See, in the world gone by, these questions were never asked or even thought about. In the world we're living in today, our children will connect with this question. I can do whatever I think is an act of love, but if it's not received as an act of love, then no, love did not occur. But I want to take it deeper. In generations gone by, there existed a lid on society, and this lid I refer to as deference to elders, respect to elders. In the world gone by, people had respect to older people. It was natural. It was part of the culture. It was how we grew up. I would guess in this community, you're desperately still hanging on to that. You're hanging on to that. See, if we would, I'm not going to do it, but if we had a show of hands, how many people think that this community is 100% hanging on to respect to elders, that all the young people have a natural respect to their elders? The answer is they don't anymore. Now, in generations gone by, how was it achieved? How did we achieve this respect to elders? It was part of the society. It's part of the world we lived in. It wasn't just us, it was the world around us. Everyone had respect to elders. That world started shifting probably somewhere around the 1950s. I have a reason why, but we don't have to go into it now. And it shifted and shifted and shifted to a point now where most of the world, we have to work to get respect to elders. It doesn't happen naturally anymore. In the world gone by, when children didn't comply, what did all parents do? All of us. We did it. My parents did it. They withdrew love, and they showed a frustrating, angry face. And so the kids got scared, and they behaved. That's how chinuch was done in generations gone by. You got angry, you showed an angry face, you withdrew the loving face. In a certain way, it was threatening, and the kids behaved. Try doing that today. You know what will happen with you young kids today? They'll do it right back at you. They'll do it right back in your face. How many parents who have come to talk to us since we're here report that their kids can criticize and curse them? The world is changing, and if we don't accommodate to that change, if we simply lament and say it shouldn't be that way, then we're in trouble. What we need is to understand actively, so how do we reverse that? What do we do in order to help our children have structure, be disciplined, behave in a way that we're not going to do the angry face, withdraw the love, because we're seeing the results is very clear. The kids withdraw their love, show an angry face, and they say, I hate you. Here's the answer. And this answer we can break down maybe through the whole evening. But the essence of the answer is this. In this generation, like all generations, children desperately, and I mean desperately, need us as adults to offer them structure, offer them rules, offer them discipline. Kids cannot function if we don't. We have to give them structure for their lives. The one change in this generation, the kloliastika change in this generation, is that when we do it, we withdraw the anger and we do it with love. While, both in schools and at homes, while we have to respond to our children, to guide them in their misbehaviors, shall I say, to guide them to healthy behaviors. And we have to put our foot down at times, certainly with younger children, but we do it with compassion in this generation. And it doesn't matter how they respond, we respond with love and with kindness and say that I'm so sorry, but it's bedtime. And when they say, well, I don't care about your stupid bedtime, I don't care, I'm not going to bed. Now, almost any parent is going to get upset at that moment, correct? Unless you're a malach, it's going to be really hard, correct? But bear with me, trust me, this way works, that way doesn't, as you may have tried. You just look at your kid and say, I'm so sorry it's hard for you, but it's still bedtime. And they say, well, I don't care, I'm not going to bed. I just told you. You're stupid, you didn't hear? I said to you, I'm not going to bed. And you say, wow, I see how difficult it is for you, but it's still bedtime. And it doesn't matter what they say to you. In this generation, remember in last generation, I remember my father one time came down 2 generations ago. He pulled off his belt. We were sitting at the breakfast table. He pulled off his belt and he whacked it on the table. By accident, it hit the sugar bowl. And the sugar bowl started dancing. And it danced towards the edge. We just sat there frozen, my brothers and I. And it fell on the floor and broke. And we all sat there. And he put his belt back on. And he said, just a warning. And let's go on breakfast. And we all, no one hated him. There was a generation once upon a time when that worked. Today, your kid becomes psychotic. You go to jail. This is not a good thing to do in this generation.